Alright, welcome back everyone dito sa latest episode ng FYI, a special legal Bardagulan communications episode. For that, we have two experts in Bardagulan, si Attorney Dino and
experts sa Bardagulan.
crisis management, real experts, Attorney Star naman, diba? As we head towards, bakit bumabo ba tong chair na to? As we head towards the moment of truth, or sana moment of truth and trial, we wanted to break down a couple of basic things. Maybe I'll start first with you, Dino. What is your read dito sa lay of the land? I mean, nasaan pa tayo? Are we still in the dribbling and ping-pong phase, or you think inevitable na papunta na tayo sa proper trial? Because as we speak, Erwin Tulfo, Tito Soto, Lacson, I think especially yung Alianza people are pushing very strong for a proper trial to be convened.
Well, they will try. They will try to dribble it some more. I think the play of the Dutertes would be to make sure, or will do whatever it takes to prevent a trial. Why? Because the moment that the evidence is out, and I've seen, I've tried to understand and analyze what are the pieces of evidence available. The moment that the pieces of evidence would be out, it's gonna be damning. That's the reason why they have to stop the trial as much as they can. As to whether or not they're going to be successful, I think that's another question.
The jury's out, literally.
Yeah, I think it's going to be inevitable. It's going to be inevitable. They've tried already. They didn't expect in February when trial did not push through. They did not expect the kind of backlash that they faced just recently. Kasi noong February, wala eh. Bakit? Easy yung mga tao, nangangampanya, okay lang rin naman na hindi muna, right? Pero right after the elections, dapat nag-trial na. And akala nila, they would be able to get away with it if they just don't proceed or they stall. But civil society did not tolerate it. The opposition also did not tolerate it. It's a genuine opposition, and most importantly, the people on the ground. Why? Because all the surveys show that the people would want to see an actual trial. They would want accountability, or at least they want the process to be respected, diba? We all know the figures, 90% for SWS.
So dollar number around 9 out of 10, and then Octa 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
Established
Octa,
almost 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
too.
9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
All the figures show. Why? Because it doesn't make sense for trial not to proceed, even for the Dutertes, at least the Duterte supporters. Ang laging sinasabi is it's going to be an opportunity for Sara to clear her name.
Exactly.
Right? So it's not just an opportunity for the people to extract accountability, but rather if there's no pieces of evidence, sabi nga nila ng mga Duterte nung panahon nila, kung wala namang tinatago, walang dapat ikatakot, edi tingnan natin, di ba? Humarap sila sa proseso. At least it's going to be an opportunity for her to clear her name. So even the Duterte supporters, mawawalan sila ng legitimacy if they say, ayaw namin ng trial, di ba? Kasi nga, ang rhetoric is, it's an opportunity for Sara to also clear her name. And in fact, even Sara herself already said, I want trial. Why? Kasi hindi magandang
She
PR.
said she wants bloodbath.
She wants bloodbath. And hindi magandang PR to begin with kung ayaw siya sa trial. No? So, syempre, touch move na siya doon. Pero, I think the legal moves will be different.
We'll discuss the article shortly. Yeah. But you quoted Batorni, former PNP Chief Bato, yung kung wala kang ginawang mali, wala ka dapat ikakatakot sa batas, diba? Which is very handy nowadays. Attorney Star, is it true that even legal experts were confused? Like, what was Cheese flirting with constitutional crisis, or was Cheese really all over the place? Because I think a lot of people were confused. Are we gonna have a trial? Are we not gonna have a trial? What does remand mean? To be honest, the spokesperson na pinili ng Senado is not also very parang Cheese Junior ang tawag ko sa kanya. Like, if you listen to the spokesperson for the trial body of Senate, hindi rin very clear. And then Cheese also had these contradictory messages. Sometimes he would say, iwanan na lang natin sa Supreme Court to define operationally what does forthwith mean. Next thing you know, he's saying, no. The Senate is the ultimate body. We have the prerogative. Next thing you know, we say, we're co-equal branches with the Congress. Oh, but we're not co-equal when it comes to the impeachment. Like, what the hell is going on there?
Yeah, that's very confusing kasi meron tayong prinsipyo na tinatawag sa constitutional law, yung verba legis, which is the plain meaning of the wording of the Constitution. At ang pinag-uusapan nga natin dito yung the word forthwith. So forthwith, in its plain meaning, and I'm sure Dino will agree, means immediately. It has to be done immediately. Ibig sabihin without any further delay. So nung medyo nagbigay ng duda si Cheese kung ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng forthwith, ang ibig sabihin daw ba ay pwede ba niyang ma-postpone until the next Senate session or until the time is right, and we don't know exactly what he meant. And then eventually nagsabi nga siya na dapat ito'y ma-remand pa sa House of Representatives. Well, for us lawyers, especially those engaged in litigation, the term remand is quite familiar because it happens a lot in litigation. It usually happens when
Push them to a lower court,
a higher court brings back a case to a lower court. So the concept of remand is the return of a case from a higher court to a lower court. In this case, however, we're not talking of a higher court or a lower court here. There's no such thing. It's just Congress. It's one body with two houses. This Senate is not higher than the lower house. I mean, it's called the lower house, but it's
House of Representatives.
House of
I think that's the
Representatives.
technical
Yes.
term, yeah.
So Senate is not a higher body than the House of Representatives. Therefore, to use the word remand, which in legal parlance means the return of a case to a lower court, is highly improper. So it seems to us practitioners that he's just doing all these moves because he's really trying to prevent what Dino says is inevitable. So this is just really delaying the inevitable. They've already filed a petition with the Supreme Court to stop the impeachment. It hasn't so far succeeded. There's no TRO. So the Constitution says proceed with the impeachment forthwith. I think we're going to have an impeachment trial soon. And thanks to the show of force of the pro-impeachment, the civil society, that was really, everybody was there.
Academe,
Exactly.
legal communities. Wala din isang law school, kahit man lang mga law students.
Even Davao, I mean, with all due respect, like, I mean, in fairness, in full force lahat ng mga legal luminaries in Davao also, in the leading university institutions.
How can you, sabi nga verbal lehis di ba? Tsaka kahit na hindi, parang how else can you define for which na to lang kung hindi ka talaga mag-engage on, alam mo yun, some sort of intellectual dishonesty. And I will call a spade a spade. It's really immediate, di ba? Walang iba wala ibang definition yun And even the framers themselves already said that is what they intended. So, how else can you define it, di ba? So,
patulan na, since lahat ay isa-dalawa lang masters natin, patulan na natin si triple masters na si Tolentino. Na sabi, I mean, Tolentino is behind this whole idea na forthwith, kailangan i-define ng Supreme Court yan, hindi kaya ng Oxford Dictionary. He's the guy behind the idea of de facto dismissal. Because honestly, like, Bato is a joke, right? Legally speaking. Basically, it's a joke, right? So it's really Tolentino has been making that argument in legal parlance or with some fig leaf of legal analysis. Patulan natin, what is wrong with triple master's argument?
Well, kahit naman 10 pa yung masters mo, no? I mean, this is, the word can be found in a dictionary, no? So, ang hirap yata nung legal gymnastics na yan, that's first. And second, I don't know, hindi ko alam yung background ni Senator Tolentino.
Well, he's not a legal luminary.
But I'm not sure whether he was a litigator. But pero sa aming mga litigators, very clear, no? Engaged in litigation, very clear na immediate yan. But secondly, I agree with Attorney Star na hindi naman korte pati yung lower house How can you remand something for to a lower court? It's not a court, di ba? Ang argument nga, at least by most legal luminaries I know, and when I read the Constitution itself, the moment that the articles of impeachment were already transmitted by the House to the Senate, their job is done, no? And they have the exclusive domain to initiate an impeachment. And a lot of legal cases already show na even the Supreme Court wouldn't want to meddle with the internal process of the House. Diba yung sinasabi ko nga, yung US versus Pons. It's a very interesting case, like ko siyang favorite kasi even nung even may grave accusation na sabi yung House of Representatives tinigil daw nila yung relo nila, sarili nilang relo, tinigil daw nila just to pass a law and kinwestiyon yung validity ng law na yon. Anong sabi ng Supreme Court? Ang titin lang namin yung journal. We will not go beyond the journal of the House of Representatives because that is their domain, that is sacred, that is a co-equal branch. So, hindi na nga nangahas ang Supreme Court who has the power of judicial review para tingnan kung ano yung sinertify ng House at paano na sinertify. They wouldn't go beyond the face of the journal. paano pa kaya yung sobrang co-equal mo within the same domain, di ba? Legislative. Co-equal
Yeah.
sila eh. I mean, the Senate cannot inquire upon the certifications made by the House, when the House already in-initiate na natin yan, deemed initiated na or transmit the articles of impeachment. Hindi na pwedeng i-review ng Senate yun, even if they transform themselves to an impeachment court. But let's just buy the argument of Tolentino and Escudero for a moment.
Yeah.
Na pag impeachment court, hindi na kami co-equal. Let's just buy that.
Kasi
Let's just buy
prosecution
that.
team lang
Kasi
kayo.
prosecuted, let's just buy that.
Right.
Paano ba kayo magtatransform ng impeachment court? Hindi ba dapat pag na-transmit na effectively yung articles of impeachment? So, ang prerequisite
Logically,
before you can transform yourself into an impeachment court, na-transmit na yung articles of impeachment. Hindi ka naman pwede mag-constitute yourself to impeachment court kung hindi mo sasabihin, na-transmit na sa amin yung articles of
So you're not
impeachment.
you're not just a part of this. You're the body that preceded its existence in the Senate, right?
So hindi nila, they cannot constitute themselves as an impeachment court if they will not concede logically that the articles of impeachment have already been transmitted to them. So even if I buy that, tapos na talaga yung trabaho.
And what
ng
is all
House.
this drama about certification or ni-rush daw yung the process in the Congress, constitutional infirmities, yung mga ganyan.
Yun yung sinasabi ni di ba, ni Senator Risa Hontiveros, kahit di siya lawyer, or si Coco, Senator Coco Pimentel, ang sabi niya, pwede mo namang i-order na lang yung House Prosecution Panel to comply with some of your procedural requirements. Why are you returning the articles of impeachment? And sabi ni Senator Lene de Lima, who will join the or the Congresswoman-elect Lene de Lima, who will join the prosecution, sige, kung binalik mo yung articles, paano ka nag-issue ng summons? Kasi yung summons, dapat andun yung articles of impeachment, andun yung complaint. So anong tinanasmit mo kay Sara Duterte? Kung pinababalik mo naman pala yung articles of impeachment, it also doesn't make legal sense. Sabi nga ni Congresswoman-elect Laila de Lima dyan, one puzzle that they have to answer in the conundrum that they themselves made. Kung sinamons mo, pero binalik mo, ano yung binigay mo dun sa summons? It doesn't make sense. Kasi supposedly, yung process ng summons is, ibibigay mo yung complaint, di ba? Doon sa respondent, di ba? At kailangan niya sagutin yun. Binalik mo
Right.
May pinapa-clarify ka pa, may pinapagawa ka pa bakit mo binigay? So, also, yung stand ng Senate dito, medyo iffy
Yeah.
Medyo hindi,
flimsy talaga yung
flimsy
arguments.
talaga yung mga arguments. I think it shows the lack of legal acumen doon sa Senate.
Walang
to be honest.
luminary.
Hindi lang luminary. Siguro wala masyadong practitioners na nakarinig ng remand. Kala nila absolute yung power na pwedeng i-remand. No? Medyo kulang, I think. Kulang yung mga legal minds in the Senate.
I mean, were we flirting with constitutional crisis, Attorney Star? And what is this debate about the Supreme Court Chief Justice should be there because even though hindi president, because the vice president is basically a spare tire president, therefore similar logic should also apply. What about, or is this another way of ping-ponging it to someone else to take the punches politically, which we'll discuss shortly? Yeah.
Yun ang dapat nating tandaan, Richard, with respect to the Constitution, unlike ordinary laws, na pwede tayong pumunta sa interpretasyon ng mga lawmakers when they pass that law. Ang Constitution kasi, ito ay inaprubahan ng taong bayan via a plebiscite or referendum. So, ibig sabihin, sabi ng Supreme Court in so many cases, kapag iniinterpreta natin ang Constitution, dapat yung pagkakaintindi ng ordinaryong mamamayan ang titignan natin. Ibig sabihin, the plain meaning talaga, the absolute plain meaning. Hindi tayo pupunta sa technicalities.
Legalists,
Hindi tayo
blah,
pupunta
blah,
sa Black's Law Dictionary. Kasi, ano bang pagkakaintindi ng ordinaryong taong bayan nung binoto nila para aprubahan ng konstitusyon na to? Dapat yung pagkakaintindi nila ang pinaka-importante. So, hindi tayo pwedeng
average
mag-resort.
reasonable person in tawag na sa debate.
Exactly. So, hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na hindi antayan natin ng interpretasyon ng Supreme Court ukol sa interpretasyon ng forthwith or kung dapat bang i-remand, lower court bang ang House of Representatives. No. Titingnan mo lang yung plain meaning ng konstitusyon. Ano bang sinasaad sa konstitusyon? Kung hindi mo makita dyan, hindi tama yan. Kung sinasabi dito na ang Senado at hindi ang Supreme Court Chief Justice ang mamumuno ng impeachment court, yung plain meaning ulit. Babalik ulit tayo sa plain meaning. So, let's not engage in too technical discussions when it comes to
Obfuscation, some would say.
exactly in determining procedure, determining substance. Kasi ang importante dito, ano bang pagkakaintindi ng taong bayan nung inaprubahan nila yung constitution na yan. And yun, katama yung sinabi ni Dino, so nagpadala ka ng summons doon sa akusado, dapat naka-attach na doon yung complaint, yung articles of impeachment. Kung ibinalik mo pa pala doon sa House of Representatives, ang pagkakatingin mo ay infirm or flawed yung articles of impeachment, so you're essentially violating the right of the accused dahil hindi mo pala pinapakita sa kanya yung tamang complaint. So there are inconsistencies there. But I think kung totoo yung sinasabi ng company VP Sara Duterte na hindi sila takot sa impeachment at in fact she's looking forward to a bloodbath, then dapat ituloy na natin talaga ituloy na natin tong proseso.
Bloodbath, that's why parang isang batalyon is 16 lawyers normal or they just put whoever's working in the firm there para mukhang malaki sila? Aside from the 18 senators. Joking aside, but you know.
Well, I looked at the names and mukhang yung mga pangalan na nandun sa defense team niya, mukhang galing naman sa iisang law firm. So malamang ang ginawa ay
they just put the whole roster, right?
Siguro buong law firm hihinto na ng trabaho sa ibang mga kaso nila at talagang magpo-focus na lang talaga sila sa defense
mukhang malaking bayad.
Sa defense
is that normal? If the whole law firm stops for a case, how do you justify that financially?
I mean, sa atin naman, di ba, litigators, di ba? Fortune, Narvasa, and Salazar, hindi yan mura. Di ba? Alam naman natin yan. Medyo. I don't know what their arrangement is. Pero sure ako, kung magde-devote ka ng ganito karaming resources.
Fortune
siguro,
pa yan.
aalma naman siguro yung partners na iba kung hindi na sila makakapagtrabaho sa mga ibang mga accounts, di ba? Kung libre yan, I doubt it. And I'm sure meron yung some sort of compensation, whether they can deny it or if they want to. But ang sure ako, hindi mura ang Fortune Narvasa.
Privilege ba yan, information, yung compensation?
Yes, it's part of lawyer-client privilege. Pero it will be a matter of public interest kung public funds ang gagamitin dito
Baka
sa pambayad ng Kasi para tayong ginigisa sa sarili nating mantika.
Sa budget niya,
baka naman na-allocate na.
Yun lang.
Nanggaling doon, paano mo naman 625 million into, di ba, how many days?
7 working days, 11 normal.
Yung 125 million. Let's be fair. 7 days niyang ginastos yung 125 million. Not the entire 625 million. Yeah. Baka naman may na-save.
Baka naman. Now, just for people to understand why you might need a whole battalion or why you don't want a trial to begin with, let's quickly go through the articles. I'll start with you, number one, favorite mo yan, di ba? Contracting an assassin and plotting to murder. I mean, I'm sorry, because it's so ridiculous where in the whole world you find a vice president openly threatening to kill the first family and the speaker. And then people are saying, wag na tayo mag-trial, mapag-iwanan tayo ng ASEAN. Yung mga ganun charot, or hindi naman natin makakayan yan. Yung mga ganun, this is a banana republic if you don't do anything about this, right?
Last time I checked, the office of the president, the office of the vice president, hindi mo rin makakain. Diba? Pero importante yung mga yan, diba? So hindi naman lahat, huwag na natin tama na yung mga drama na yan, diba?
Well, kung malaking confidential fund na piatos, pwede mo kainin yan.
Going chichirya, no? So, pero yung Article 1, very clear yan, no? Ito yung basta, ma'am, huwag kang mag-alala sa security ko. Diba? Basta, pag may nangyari sa akin, meron akong kinausap na tao, napatayin mo si BBM, patayin mo si Lisa Araneta, patayin mo si Martin Romualdez, and then...
No joke.
No joke?
No joke.
Ma'am, no joke. And then he said yes. Yan, diba?
Oh
so,
God.
ang sabi dito sa Article 1 is very clear. There was a contract to kill, whether or not there
conditional.
was kahit na may kahit na may suspensive condition, it does not distract from the fact that he engaged somebody, an assassin, to kill the first family and the Speaker of the House, the highest officials of the land, and most importantly, di ba, apart from that, is very, very much illegal yan. Siyempre, contract to kill.
Anyone,
right?
actually. Yeah.
And most importantly, siya yung main beneficiary kung namatay sila.
Lang.
Because ang trabaho lang ng Vice President sa ating Constitution ay mag-antay na may mangyari sa Presidente and she should be ready to become President, di ba? So, very highly improper. Siya yung main beneficiary. There's I think motive there, and the strongest in rules of evidence, diba, Attorney Star, the strongest form of evidence is declaration against interest, diba? At tanggaling mismo sa bibig niya yan.
Just to be
diba?
clear, this is the same person that months earlier said designated survivor siya. So, ilan milyon ang ginastos natin for extra security because we're heading to the SALN soon, right? So, like, I don't know ano yung palusot nila dito. But let's go to Article 2, which I think is even more interesting. And feeling ko mas resonant sa tao yun. Dahil, unfortunately, nasanay na tayo sa mga Dutertes making open threats right and left. Graft and corruption and misuse and malversation of confidential funds appropriate to the OVP and DepEd. So, may resibo nito eh. Medyo hindi ata kaya ng isang batalyon yan. What is your read?
Well, hindi na ipaliwanag yan. During the House of Representatives meeting, naglabasa ng ebidensya, nagtestify yung mga kawani ng DepEd at kung ano-ano mga kababalaghan ang na-unearth doon sa hearings. May mga lumabas na pangalan na
Miggy Mango, Kasim,
Oishi.
Piatos.
Shell joke, no? Hindi ko na shell joke.
Tingin ko overwhelming yung evidence
Yeah.
at talagang I think yan yung kinakatakutan of all dahil hindi lamang siyang involved, maraming involved at documented. Yun ang pinaka-importante dito, documented, and even our auditors are saying that the transactions are highly questionable. So this falls squarely under that ground in the Constitution, which is acts of graft and corruption. It is a ground for impeachment. So that scale of corruption that was committed in a record 22 days really is impeachable offense.
Tsaka ang dito, scandalous dito, di ba, Star, is yung hindi lang yung liquidation di ba? Yung liquidation, sige, fine, di ba? Sabi ko nga, doon sa Napoli scandal, ang ginawa daw is kumuha sila ng mga nakapasa ng board exams. At yun yung liquidation. At least yung totoo mga pangalan. Ito, I think from the 1,600, 1,300 doon, walang birth certificate. Walang record sa Philippine Statistics Authority. That's first.
Right.
Secondly, so questionable na. Tapos yung mga pangalan niya, Miggy Mango, Kasim, Oishi, lahat sinitsiri.
Or same signature, different names, same signature.
Pareho yung penmanship.
You're right.
Pareho yung penmanship ng lahat ng mga liquidation. Tapos parang pareho lang yung mga pumirma. And worse is, di ba, sabi nga, 125 million of that ginastos ng 11 days. Actually, hindi 11 days kasi 4 days noon ay holiday. Christmas Eve, Pasko, Rizal Day, New Year, at 16
Hindi ko
million
gets yung logic nun kasi pwede ka naman mag-hotel lang.
Kaya-
Mahal na holiday. Like, but basic, efficient. What we're saying, efficiency ate.
1.6 million a day yata supposedly doon sa liquidation nila ay ginastos for safe houses within 11 days. So kung mga pumapatak yan, yung 16 million, pumapatak yan around 1.5, 1.6 million every day. Ang
Right.
question is, sino mo tinagod mo sa 1.6 million na ginagastos mo every day? Saan mo tinago? Sabi ko nga, sa mga kaibigan ko, mga 100 kaibigan ko, ilibre ko kayo lahat sa Okada Hotel. Doon tayo lahat ilalagay 100
Sa MacArthur
rooms. 100
Presidential
rooms.
Suite.
Sama natin MacArthur Presidential Suite. Hindi tayo aabot ng 1.6 million a day. So 20. 'Di ba? Parang kahit ng 15,000 or 10,000 a night na lang. Sabihin mo sa isang hotel, 'di ba? 100 people, 1 million lang yun 1 million lang yun, di ba? Kaya ko kayo lahat libre. 15,000 a day, dilibre niya. Sino yung tinago mo at nilagay mo lahat sa 5-star hotel, Okada Hotel, or di ba? Sa Manila Pen,
baka Abu Dhabi to, Burj Khalifa, Dubai, ganun.
Medyo scandalous Scandalous na ganun ba yung tinatawag
Garapalan
mo?
medyo.
So, what's the point? The point is, and this is, I think, painful for a lot of Filipinos, no? They are saying always na kailangan yung meron tayong hold natin yung security, nire-recruit ang mga kabataan sa CPP, NPA, kaya kailangan ng confidential funds ng DepEd, di ba? Tinatry nila i-justify yung, in the name of national security yung actions nila, pero sa totoo lang, kinukuha ang pera, hindi nililiquidate na maayos at tinatry nila i-justify yung mga actions nila. Pero, ang magtataka ka, DepEd, Office of the Vice President, mas mataas ang intelligence funds kaysa sa Philippine Navy,
Coast Guard. Sa gitna ng laban sa West Philippine Sea.
Sa laban ng West Philippine Sea. Gusto nila mas mataas ang DepEd at the Office of the Vice President pagdating sa confidential funds. Hindi naman sila frontliner when it comes to security. It just doesn't make sense, no? lahat ito ay convenient excuse para kuhanin ang pera ng taong bayan at in a brazen way, hindi man lang finesse. Bakit kaya
Allegedly, di umano.
Hindi umano. Pero bakit kaya brazen, no? I think it's because
Right.
nasanay na sila na ginagawa ito sa Davao. Tandaan mo, magkano raw ba yung confidential fund sa Davao? 33 billion.
They invented confidential fund
for the office of the mayor, di ba? So
Right.
ano lang tong 600 million na to kumpara doon sa
Barya lang
33
yan.
billion
Yeah,
before
barya lang
na inubos supposedly ng pamilya Duterte at wala nangangahas na mag-check sa kanila. Bakit? Takot kayo. Mamamatay tao eh. Di ba? Di umano.
Di umano.
Talaga, Richard, no? Di umano. Mamamatay tao. Di ba? So, syempre, tatakot kang questionin. Right? And then, alam nila na walang mga ngahas. Kaya, brazen na yung pagkagawa. Mag-invento na lang tayo ng mga pangalan ng chichirya.
Can I disagree with you? Kasi last time I saw, Davao voted for a cardboard mayor. And yung isa nga booking na may tinetretan, manalo. So, I don't know.
Masakit sa akin yan.
It's the will of the
Ko
people.
yung cardboard ni Laila de Lima. Kaso hindi kami nanalo.
I'm just saying.
Buti na lang nanalo na kami ngayon.
I will never forget yung certification time ni Digong, nagpalakpakan lahat, ganun. And like, the guy is in detention, literally, as we speak. But let's go to number 3, Article 3, bribery and other acts of graft corruption in violation of RA 3019. Attorney Star.
Di yatay sa DepEd eh.
So medyo similar, 'di ba? Medyo similar yung mga kapalpakan natin nakita. So actually 2 and 3 you can put them together.
Yeah.
And then number 4,
yung procurement, by the way, yung 500 million pesos na supposedly for digitalization ng Department of Education. Ibig sabihin, in educational crisis na nga tayo, kinakailangan na nataasan ng standards ng education, kailangan na mas maraming classroom, kailangan na mas maraming textbook, kailangan na mga bata ng laman sa laman sa tiyan nila bago sila pumasok para makapag-aral.
Just to be clear, 17 million daw sa mga recent graduates na medyo may basic functional literacy problem.
Correct.
Just for people to realize how deep and profound the education crisis is.
Tapos dodoktorin yung 500 million supposedly na procurement para sa digitalization na iiwan na nga.
Ito yung yung USEC na sabi niya may 50,000
niya talaga.
Sorry, now I remember the exact case. Yun yung exact case.
Who happens to be a member of the defense team? Si Yusek
Interesting.
Monsayak is one of the listed defense lawyers.
Siguro para hindi na siya makuha sa pina. Baka hindi bakit sa play,
It's
That's an
possible.
interesting,
Para hindi na siya masabina, may lawyer-client privilege siya. He can't testify against
that's an
his
interesting mafia
his client.
move.
Exactly.
Oh, wow,
There
that's
are
an interesting
two
situation.
USECs, at least two USECs,
POA, yung isa,
who are
Dating spokes
listed
niya.
as members of the defense team.
Interesting.
Kaya nga interesting like when you look at the composition and all of that.
Right. And kaya masakit pa to, Richard and Dino, is, hindi ba sabi nga, it only takes 200,000 to build one classroom. Can you imagine kung ilang classroom na sana na itayo doon sa ginamit ng mga pondo
Visualize
sa...
dapat yan.
Yeah,
That's what should be
Ilang
visual.
classroom ito, ilang teachers na mapapasweldo, na kulang na
Correct.
nga, di ba? Ilang textbooks ang pinag-uusapan.
Yung mga laptops,
diba?
yung mga laptops. Isang kaibigan na merch. 7 designs. Yung isa may owl na malaki, yung isa may agila na malaki, yung isa may owl na agila. May 7 versions. Sara Green, Sara Red.
Ilang libro sana yan na may isang kaibigan.
Exactly. Exactly.
Ano ba yung pinapapalit
Na napaka, tabang utak pa yan. What's the term for that? What is that? A political connector. But this is where, and this is what at least Justice Carver would argue, this is the crux of the issue, right? Amassing unexplained wealth and failing to disclose all her properties and interest in properties in her statement of assets and net worth, SALN. Puya ka siya. Mukhang yun yung medyo...
It's gonna be interesting, no, Star.
Kasi
yan.
si Justice Corona na-impeach because of that. Si Justice Sereno was also impeached for allegedly failing to file her SALN in certain years. So, ganun kahalaga. Isipin natin, dokumento lamang to na fina-file ng mga government employees. But if 2 past Chief Justices were actually impeached on the basis of
So yun yung magic bullet?
Or
Yun yung ano?
Well, I've attempted to ask for the SALN of President Duterte from Ombudsman.
I remember.
And
Sa gitna ng pandemic when everyone was scared as hell.
Si President Duterte at si Vice President Inday Sara. But unfortunately, the Office of the Ombudsman, ang first memorandum order niya, is hindi na pwede ma-access yung SALN kahit na very clear in all laws, including the SALN law, including yung administrative code na may right yung people supposedly to access the SALN of people. Pero dito, kaya siya I think magiging dramatic, is because ipapasabi niya yung bank accounts.
Patay.
And ang sabi, based on the AMLAC report, kasi tandaan mo inimbestigahan dati ito ng ombudsman, kasi tinanggal nila yung deputy ombudsman before, through Trillanes.
Yes.
Tinanggal nila yung ombudsman before, pero nakuha nila yung AMLAC report. At 2 billion pesos. 2 billion pesos yung pera dun sa bank accounts na yun. So pag nasampina na yan successfully ng impeachment court, I think that's gonna be a damning
bloodbath. Yun ang bloodbath.
Yun sa akin malinaw yun eh. Sabi mo natanggal dati si Justice Corona. Hindi lang dineclare yung SALN, tapos nalaman natin may dollar account na 130 million ba?
Right.
Paano ba itong 2 billion? Yun nga, nag-deposit nga lang yung Vera files recently.
Na-verified siya.
At clear na nag-exist ang account at ang account is named after Rodrigo Roa Duterte at saka joint account, Sara Duterte. So kahit na pagsamahin mo yung pera nila, sweldo nila, kasi wala naman supposedly negosyo itong mga ito. Hindi ka
gobyerno, negosyo daw.
Ginawang negosyo yung gobyerno, di ba?
Di umano.
2 billion pesos. Paano yun? Paano mo papasok sa bank account mo yun? Alam mo kung ano pa yung dyan, lalabas, no? Ang sinasabi is, yan ay dineposit ng mga drug lord.
Patay.
Ng mga drug lord
Pogo.
na pinoprotektahan at Pogo lords. Pero drug lord nga. So, yung show na they are anti-drugs, pero ang
anti-corruption.
Na pinatay puro mga puslit, maliliit na mga tao, sambayan ng Pilipino, wala ni isang major drug lord na nahuli. At ang masakit pa dyan, di ba, meron yung 6 billion, dalawang beses.
Right.
6 billion shipment
in container
funds
nahuli yun.
na hindi, sinabi, nahuli, pero hindi na-recover. Tapos bilang nawala na lang. Was prosecuted. It validates yung theory na actually under the payroll.
This is the Trillanes theory, just to be clear.
The Trillanes theory, yeah.
Now, this is a merger consolidation corporate move, basically. That's the Trillanes theory, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
But again, kaya nga interesting tong part na ito. Pagka nasampina na yan, saan nanggaling yung pera ninyo? Saan nanggaling yung pera ninyo?
Yeah, mahirap i-justify.
Actually, Dino, one of the things I'm looking forward to then is kung anong dapat gawin ng Anti-Money Laundering Council dito. Kasi graft and corruption is one of the predicate crimes, di ba, for money laundering. At anong ginagawa dapat kapag merong suspected acts of money laundering? Ang Anti-Money Laundering Council po ay may karapatan or may authority na mag-apply ng freeze order from the Court of Appeal. Right. So it would be interesting when the AMLC will act on this. It's definitely one of the predicate crimes, bribery, graft, and corruption. And this is not just ordinary graft and corruption. This is graft and corruption on a massive scale. Right. So it is important, I think, that the funds, whatever remains of it, should be frozen. Kasi pera ng taong bayan yan eh. Hindi naman pera ng mga Duterte yan. So, interesting and I hope the AMLC will look into the matter.
Iisang bank account pa lang yung 2 billion.
Exactly.
Marami
yan.
Rabbit hole yan. Let's go to the next one because this is interesting because it could have an ICC adjacent or ricochet effect, diba? Which is the high crime of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Some people are saying that we have to even look at her time even prior to her assumption of office in VP because Davao is the biggest city by land area and one of the biggest cities by population, biggest in Mindanao. And she was mayor and Tokang was like, last time I checked, fully embraced by her during her dad's time. What is your read of this? Could this spill over into other terms of office?
At least the information that we have now is ang testimony na ginagamit dito yung kay Matubato at yung kay Las Cañas, no?
The super insiders, core people.
And that's the reason why, under investigation Duterte, si Rodrigo Duterte,
sa ICC.
Kaya nga sa ICC. Yeah. Ang most crucial part doon are the testimonies of Matubato and Las Cañas. What does that mean? It means that if the ICC found it as, credible enough to proceed with the arrest and with the trial of Rodrigo Duterte, tandaan natin na sa impeachment, hindi nga proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Diba?
Mas mababa yung quantum.
Mas mababa yung quantum of evidence required. Right. Some say it's just substantial evidence because it's quasi-political, quasi-judicial. Miriam Santiago proposed before this overwhelming preponderance of evidence. I don't subscribe to that. No, sa akin, substantial evidence kasi administrative lang ito eh. Yeah. Diba? Tatanggalin lang sa posisyon.
Hindi naman siya makulong.
Hindi naman siya makukulong. Yeah. Hindi naman siya, wala namang right ang bawat isang tao sa public office office, di ba? Public office is a public trust. Hindi mo karapatan na mamanatili sa
Parang medyo
posisyon mo.
disciplinary ang mangyaring result.
Disciplinary lang, which
Yeah.
is usually, it's just substantial evidence required. Pero yun yung
Right.
dalawa. Ang testimony nila is hindi lamang si Rodrigo Duterte, bagkus pinagpatuloy talaga ni Sara Duterte ang Davao Death Squad at talagang participant siya doon sa instruction to make sure na merong patayan sa Davao, di ba? At least yan yung testimony ni
And this could also have a ricochet effect dun sa parallel ICC investigations.
Right.
Because last time I checked, talking to ICC accredited folks, they're like saying, hindi lang ito Bato and Digong. There could be a couple of really big figures, maybe 6, maybe 11, maybe 10. And some were saying, pwede ba kaya si Sara din, aside from even some mentioned Bongo, right? So, what is your read? I mean, could this trial also have parallel legal implications at the highest levels? Like,
Kasi kung titignan natin yung complaint sa ICC, merong mga redacted portions, no? Binlot out nila yung mga pangalan ng mga ibang personalities involved. So, I don't doubt that there are other personalities named in that complaint, and the Vice President might very well be one of those named. So, it will be interesting how the presentation of evidence before the impeachment court can also contribute to the ongoing proceedings sa ICC.
And the next one is acts of destabilization, high crimes. So, medyo may overlap sa number 1 and number 5. But the important one is yung may isugrali, yung calling bangag-bangag, yung deep fake, cheap fakes, attacking the integrity of the president, calling for overturn. I mean, this is quite serious. I mean, it's ironic, right? Because Digong used to use the destabilization tag to basically red tag everyone, right? Dilaw, communist, media, vlogger. Even us during the time when we said something about the pandemic, right? Pwede ka kasuhan ka agad, diba? And now, actually, last time I checked with all the investors, they're asking what the heck is up with the Dutertes. They're actually the biggest headache.
Destabilizers.
Yeah, they are basically, let's call them for what it is, right? They're destabilized by every sense of the word. And the last one is the totality. Basically, the last article is karapat dapat ba siya maging vice-presidente given everything, right?
The totality of overall behavior. Sa aming mga lawyers, yan na yung parang
Catch-all.
Catch-all, yeah.
Catch-all yan. Yung ano na yan, di ba? Parang actually sa akin conclusion yan na kayo naman, mga kaibigan naman.
Closing remarks yan.
Para naman siguro we deserve better. Siguro naman hindi ganyan yung deserve nating Vice President who's a heartbeat away from the presidency. Yung ganyang mga move niya, the totality of it, please naman. Parang ganyan yan in layman's term, no, na hindi siya karapat-dapat maging president.
Okay, so we're going to the last part of this episode because if I'm Sarah's team, I don't like how this is shaping up. So basically, their only strategy I can see here is go bardagulan, aggressive PR, burn down the house, attack the prosecution team, attack the prosecution's spokespersons, attack. That's the only thing I can see. I mean, like, kasi the real numbers that matter here is not the number of, I don't know, 18 senators, which will be different soon probably, but it's really the public opinion, the political damage, the political capital damage. And in fact, I think people keep on forgetting, the last time certain senators were seen as shielding a guilty person, I'm talking about ERAP, dun sa 11, some of them never came back politically.
Correct.
They were burned for life.
Si Aquino Oreta never recovered after that.
Coseteng also was never back.
Gigi Coseteng, wala talaga. Talagang may backlash the moment na malinaw yung ebidensya. So very clear na ang audience mo dito, hindi lang yung 18 senators. In fact, when I was, my mom was a private prosecutor in the Corona impeachment trial, no. And ang bilang talaga nila noon is around 16 senators yata ang ayaw ng conviction.
Initially.
Ayaw na conviction. Talagang ayaw, di ba?
Right.
What does that mean? The conviction, di ba? Overwhelmingly. Despite the fact na sila Miriam, nandun, ayaw.
So the numbers could shift.
Could shift because it's gonna be a matter of evidence. So, it means that we have to be able to effectively communicate the pieces of evidence to the public. At sa akin, lahat na ng mga, alam mo, the Dutertes are very much well known to make theatrics. Di ba? Magta-theatrics yan Di ba? Para ma-divert yung attention natin sa mga ibang mga bagay.
Well, they don't have much of a choice. I mean,
kaya sa akin, wala silang choice. So, kanya sila magaling, magdadrama yan, kung ano-ano mga theatrics ang gagawin yan. So, I think the communication
Pusit Olympics.
Pusit Olympics.
Yeah.
Olympics. Ebidensya. Bumalik tayo sa ebidensya. Lahat ng taong bayan ang inaantay dito, ebidensya. Huwag na tayong chismis, huwag na tayo ditong dramahan, huwag na tayo dito kung ano-ano pang kaguluhan na doon sila expert eh. If we go down to their domain, yari tayo. So, lagi, huwag tayo magpa-divert. Balik tayo sa ebidensya.
Put them on their back heel.
Oo,
Yeah.
ebidensya. I think that's the most important thing that we have to communicate. The spokespersons should be able to communicate. The House Prosecution Panel should be able to communicate. At lahat ng mga well-meaning people, which is I think wala namang masama. Hindi naman sinasabi i-convict si Sara.
Kasi di umano, lahat naman allegations lang to eh. Yeah.
Ebidensya, di ba?
Right.
Ako nga, based on siguro naman sa track record natin, no? Pag walang ebidensya, frame up yan. Hindi ako payag dyan.
Yeah.
We defended Laila de Lima for
Who was framed up, yeah.
Was framed up. Kung frame up yan, huwag tayong pumayag. And we will be the first one to defend Sara Duterte. If there's a frame up, but let's take a look at the pieces of evidence, di ba? At the way it's shaping up, I don't think it's a frame up, but i-offer natin yung ebidensya. Ebidensya. Hindi drama, hindi ko ano pang kalokohan, di ba? Hindi kasinungalingan, hindi pusit tactic, ebidensya ang tingnan natin.
In any war, it's battle of narratives, right? It's not about what happens, but what happens, how it is communicated, and what kind of emotions and policy responses it invokes. So basically now, nakikita natin the other side is already propping up, hyping up some of the, I don't know, yung 16 Battalion, whatever, Lars, basically making them look like celebrities, the way they have tried to make Kaufman like a hero of the DDS and all. So which raises a question. The prosecution team also has a spokesperson recently. I think this is a person that you're familiar with, Attorney Starr, or maybe overlap at some point in some court or something. What is your reading? How important is for the prosecution team to basically execute the communications game properly? Because at the end of the day, this is for the hearts and minds of people. Because we're not talking about a full judicial body. This is a political exercise, an exercise in our constitutional democracy. So what is your read of their choices of the spokesperson? Because I'll be honest, for some of us who are not in the legal profession, like we're Googling the guy. I mean, does he even have a wiki page? But do you get what I'm saying? Some people are so far, I mean, I can see magaling siya mag-explain from a legal standpoint. But do you think they have to step up their game in terms of maybe having multiple spokespersons? I'm not volunteering anyone. I'm just saying, like, okay, I'll keep it there. Come on. I'll give it there, yeah.
Well, Attorney Audie Booker is, as far as I know, a respected litigator.
Right.
He's much more senior than I am. And in the first law office that I joined, the law office of Attorney Mario Ontico, who was one of the best litigators this country ever had. Yes, Attorney Audie Booker was one of the senior partners. So I have no doubt that he is a skilled litigation lawyer. I have not seen enough of him to gauge how good he is as a spokesperson.
Yeah,
But
which is a different thing, right? This is not
it requires a
litigation.
different skill set. Given that my background is also communications, I graduated
So what are the
mass
things
comm.
we should see from him and whoever is going to be his other, I don't know, deputy or whatever?
Well, definitely for a spokesperson, there are certain skills that are needed. Of course, being articulate, being able to articulate not just to the members of the Senate or to the other lawyers, but most importantly to the public.
So
to be
dapat
able to
bilingual, marunong siya
explain what's
mag-Pilipino, explain niya
happening,
sa taong bayan.
what's happening in the trial, in the proceedings. Dapat bihasa siya sa Ingles at sa Tagalog,
Bilingual
kasi hindi
at least,
lahat ng mga kababayan natin nakakaintindi ng Ingles. So dapat masisimplify niya yung mga legal concepts. Kasi kung yung mga abogado nga hindi nagkakaintindihan sa mga legal concepts, paano mo ito ipapaliwanag ng malinaw sa membro ng publiko? At saka dapat may credibility. So in this age of fake news and false information, dapat yung spokesperson someone na nakikita ng mga tao na magsasabi ng katotohanan. Somebody trustworthy enough is able to build trust and rapport with the audience. Alam siguro din ni Dino yung sinasabi sa isang author ng communications, si Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message. So the communication channel is sometimes more important than the content of the message. So if
Can
the
a boomer do it
message,
in an age of social media when the medium is very different from your normal mainstream media?
exactly,
I'm not even talking about the legal
So we
community.
now have social media, not just traditional
Right.
media. So it is very important. It is critical for the spokesperson to be able to communicate in those different channels effectively and clearly what's happening. So that ang proseso kasi ng impeachment hindi lang naman for the purpose of ascertaining or arriving at a verdict, meaning finding VP Sara guilty or not guilty. Ultimately, of course, we hope that the justice is served and she's found guilty for whatever crime she may have committed. But it is also important that the evidence comes out. Kasi ang hirap masatisfy yung 2/3 vote. Aminin natin. And we don't know if we will eventually have the numbers. But if we are able to come up with all the evidence, if we are able to unearth all these evidence and show this to the public,
Nalantaran talaga nangyari.
lantaran talaga.
Yeah.
Kung ano man ang maging verdict eventually ng Senate, and if these evidence are articulated to the public well, I believe this will play a big role in the decision making of our countrymen come the next election.
Attorney, just for the purpose of people who are hearing about crisis management communication for what are like the kernel, ano yung mga pillars of crisis management, mga I don't know, 3 key things to keep in mind, especially in our era of spontaneous, rapid communications.
Well, I'd like to think that the one in crisis right now is the vice president, so I don't want to give her free advice.
No, I'm talking about the others. I think the Dutertes know how to deal with crisis because crisis is their ladder to power. They really thrive on crisis, right? So for the more normal side of this equation, if I can put it, what are important things? What are the ABCs of crisis management?
Well,
Communications.
Definitely, you'd have to approach it in a very calm manner because when you're in a
Wala
crisis,
na, wala na. Yun lang pala, wala na. Oh. No joke. Okay, so
because if you're panicking along with everybody else,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't be able to communicate effectively. You wouldn't be able to contain the
Keep
situation.
calm. Okay.
Because you wouldn't be able to. It will cloud your judgment if you're as agitated, as panicked as everybody else. So you have to maintain your calm. You have to maintain your composure, and through it all, you have to be able to communicate effectively what's happening in real time to the public. Because in the midst of a crisis, the public is hungry for information. Parang teleserye na
Correct.
inaabangan araw-araw.
Pero dapat
ano na ba
digestible,
nangyari? Dapat
nakaka-relate ang
digestible,
tao,
dapat katiwa-tiwala, at dapat naiintindihan ng mas nakararami. We don't want for just a few people, for just the elite, the law students, the middle class. We want kahit yung naglilinis nagwawalis sa kalye, dapat naiintindihan nila yung nangyayari.
Relatable siya.
Kasi lahat sila boboto uli sa susunod na eleksyon.
Kailangan ba na may face value? Kasi last time, I remember Binay had a face value spokesperson, tapos hinimatay siya bigla. Remember that? Yung na-overwhelm siya. So kailangan medyo you have a steely, let's just say it's
kasi
not, may hinimatay dati.
It's not supposed to be a beauty pageant. I mean,
right.
I do agree, of course, na dapat siguro there has to be a certain look of professionalism,
Right.
a certain
May
look
dating.
that builds trust. And that shows authority, pero hindi naman natin sinasabi na kailangan beauty pageant holder itong magiging spokesperson. Dapat lamang katiwa-tiwala. And the manner by which that person communicates to the public is the most important of all. It has to exude credibility and authority.
Last point, since we talk about beauty pageant, shoot, she's a Scudero. Because I think the third microblading session is gonna go. Shoot, she's a Scudero. Stay as Senate President based on his performance, or you think the best thing here for the integrity of the Senate? I mean, we're not talking about personal politics. Para sa bayan, kumbaga, kailangan ba mapalitan ang leadership ng Senado?
It's a matter for the Senate to decide, no? But if I will be voting, I'd probably vote for somebody who will make sure that the process will be respected regardless of political interests. Because lahat naman tayo may political interests na we're human beings. But let's not forget that we are part of that institution. constitution.
Right.
And in our democracy, we have to make sure that our institutions work, no? And yung mga sinasabi nilang mga statesman, di ba? Sila yung mga tao talaga na ipinagpaliban yung political interest because they have to protect and defend the institution.
Exactly.
No? So, it's gonna be good for the Senate to have somebody na puprotektahan yung institution. Hindi yung i-court yung isang block para to make sure that Senate President siya. That's why Aquilino Pimentel, di ba, was effective during EDSA DOS.
He resigned at some point. Yeah.
Why?
Nainis
Sabi
siya.
niya hindi pwede kasi hindi siya pwedeng maging manatiling leader
Hindi niya masikmura.
isang senado na para bang yung institusyon na wounded na never ulit makaka-recover kung ganyan yung nagiging attitude, di ba? Which precipitated yung EDSA DOS, di ba? So, a lot of people's sinaluduhan siya doon dahilan sa mas makita niya mas importante yung institusyon kaysa sa kapangyarihan at kaysa sa posisyon.
Yeah, and we're talking about the highest supposedly legislative body which is in charge of signing off on treaties, ratification treaties. I mean, hindi joke yung Senate. Now, I would put aside questions of hardware, software limitations, but it's not like Cheese has a software limitation. He may have a, limitation in terms of it. But there's, the reason I'm saying this is because every time I post something about Senate, the first 5 comments, at least tatlo dyan, abrogate Senate, which is something I never thought I would hear in my life. It used to be galit ang tao sa Kongreso. Ayan naman yung mga trapo sa Kongreso, ayan naman parochial. Now, people see a Senate as a joke, essentially as a circus. Do you think for the sake of the institution's integrity and its place in our constitutional democratic order, kailangan na siguro magkaroon ng more. Not like the alternatives are really reassuring. I'm definitely like Marcos one is really a weird one. It's like yung parang kulelat ka sa classroom tapos mag-apply ka ng president. Kasi barely she got through, di ba? By the skin of her teeth, right? She got through the. No, but you get what I'm saying. Like, do you think there should be an internal cleanup of the mess that the Senate was in the outgoing one?
I think that the fort with brouhaha has already tainted the credibility of, unfortunately, of Senator Cheese Escudero. So, meron na ngayong duda sa impartiality niya. It's always, of course, best that the Senate, in conducting the impeachment
Can he join the
proceedings.
defense team of
Hindi, tsaka, merong, ayan tuloy. Meron ako nabasang article and I vaguely remember this. Si Senator Cheese Escudero was even the one who, when he was a member of the Board of Regents of UP, was the one who advocated the conferment of an honorary degree to the then President Rodrigo Duterte.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it may be just trivia, but for me, these things, as well as his recent actions, seriously taint his impartiality. Therefore, I think it is best for him not to be the one to preside over this impeachment proceedings.
On that very good advice, wonderful people, beautiful people. Thank you very much, Attorney Star, and our resident crisis communication experts, and also our resident Bardagulan Attorney, Dino De Leon. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this latest episode of FYI. As we move forward, I'm sure we'll have even more updates and analysis about the granularities at saka yung mga latest na back and forth na makita natin sa darating na trial ni Sara. And kung walang trial, wala na. Ibang usapan na yan. Magkakudeta na siguro tayo or constitutional crisis. On that note, thank you very much and talk to you soon. Salamat.